Okay, today's lesson covers chapter 3 in the textbooks, which is charting. Now, I'm guessing that every student in this class right now has seen a chart before, and I'm hoping that you haven't just saved the thoughts on how you want to create your charts for whatever reports you would use for the end of whatever project you're working on. So, charts in Excel. Well, why do we use charts? Let's just go with that. Charts are visual representations of data. And here I've got a data set for a coffee shop. Now keep in mind these are numbers in thousands. So what you see in cell B5 right here is $798,000. So we're dealing with numbers in thousands. So if I were to ask you to look at this right now and say, what is our highest selling product at this coffee shop year over year from 2013 to 2017? If I asked you that, you could probably pretty quickly say coffee. That's correct. Well, it is a coffee shop, so coffee would make a lot of sense. If we're not selling the most coffee at a coffee shop, maybe we should be something else. Now, if I asked you to say number two, yeah, you could probably tell me that it was deli. That's pretty close. But then if I asked you what was our second, third, and fourth, now, yes, there's not a lot of data in this project, but even with there not being a lot of data, you still would have to use a little bit of extra brain power to go in and actually figure out which would be the first, second, third, and fourth selling products. So where does a chart come in? Well, here's what, just as a joke, here's what I used to do. When I used to write papers back in high school and I thought, oh man, I really need this to look cool, I would add a chart. Well, just adding a chart because it looks cool is really not a good way to go about being a data analyst. What you're really doing is adding a chart as a visual representation of your data to help you get a broader sense of what's happening in your data. Now, once you get that chart and use it, you then have the ability to go back to your original data observations and dig in and figure out what's going on. But just to give you an example of what I mean, let's just take a look. Let's grab this data right here, and I will just very quickly use quick analysis to make a chart. So let's just make something quick, and here we have it. And we'll call this, we'll give it a title. We'll call this 2013 through 2017 sales. Okay, so let's just take a look at our chart. We don't want that space in there. Sales. Okay, so let's just take a look at our chart for a second. We'll close our chart tools. And here we have a chart. I can blow this up so it's easier for you guys to see. There we go. Just cover that up. So now it's pretty obvious, right? So if we look at this, it's pretty obvious that no matter what, coffee and espresso sells pretty well. Now from this, we can quickly go in and see that the deli is doing number 2, the bakery is number 3, packaged coffee and tea is number 4, and this is, I'm just looking actually at 2013 here, and coffee accessories is the last spot. Okay, but we have the ability to see this very visually. Now, is that enough to really drive business? Of course not. You need to know details like what shows up here. But having something like a chart makes it really easy to get an overall sense of what's happening without having to dive too far into it if you just need to make some quick decisions or just get a quick glimpse at what's happening for the day. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, charting. Okay, so to make a chart in Excel, it actually looks easier than it really is, and it's really not all that difficult. Let's get rid of this chart. It's not actually all that difficult to make a chart, but what I want from you guys, or what I hope, is not only can you make a chart, you can make a dynamic chart that's impactful, and you can repeat that performance over and over again. What I find most of all when people deal with charts in Excel is they just sort of go with that guess and check method. Well, I'll just try to make a chart and we'll just fiddle with it till it looks right. That's really not an efficient way to handle business. So what I hope you're able to do getting through this chapter and handling this video and going into your assignment for the week is not just make a chart, but actually plan a chart in your mind that's impactful, that makes it, that serves a business purpose that you can create perfectly on the first time. And that's what our goal is for today. So let's start with making a chart. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a couple charts. We'll make it really easy. So if you want to follow along, this worksheet is available for you on Moodle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a selection here. I'm going to select cell A4 through B9. That's just 2013. Okay, so let's say now that I've got that selected, A4 through B9, that I would like to get a breakdown of how much was sold visually for each product within that 2013 year. Now, there are several ways to create a chart in Excel. Of course there is, right? Because there's 3 ways to do everything in Excel, yeah? So what I want to show you are some of the ways that we can do that very quickly, okay? So first of all, if you make your selection, right, like so, you have the ability to right-click your data and go to Quick Analysis, okay? That's one way. Okay, now we're going to talk about quick analysis, but let me jump out of quick analysis and we'll select it again, going down to the bottom and actually pop up the quick analysis tool at the bottom. Okay, so quick analysis, and actually just to make sure you see it, let me do it one more time. Okay, this is a new feature in Excel 2013 that's carried over, which is the ability to skip using the ribbon to go through and select charting and just chart right off your worksheet. So if I make this selection of A4 through B9, I get this little quick analysis box that pops up here. Okay, see it right there? Now you can get that same box by right-clicking your data and going to quick analysis. It'll take you to the same place. Okay, so that's 2 different ways to do the exact same thing. Okay. Now, once we're inside Quick Analysis, we're going to click Chart. And from there, we have the ability to choose what kind of chart we want, okay? Now, the one word of advice I'll give you, so I'll click More just so you can see this. The one word of advice that I'll give you is it's never wise to let Excel guess. So for example, let's look at that. See this chart? That's pretty confusing, isn't it? I've been doing this for a long time, and looking at this doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, that one's not bad, and this one's not bad, but it's always good to make sure in your mind you know exactly what you want. So here's the list of all the different charting options that you can choose, and I suggest instead of letting Excel guess unless you're really confident in what it's going to do, I would suggest going through and picking the one that you really think is best suited for your business purpose, which is what I'll do here. And here I have my chart. Pretty quick, pretty easy, pretty simple, right? Inserting a chart. Now there are a couple hiccups that can happen when you go through and work on a chart, which I'm sure you've read in your book. I just want to give you a couple highlights of things that people get a little confused on when dealing with charts. And then I'll turn you loose to do your homework and maybe work on this practice problem a little bit. So the first thing you'll see when you deal with the chart is, so take a look at the ribbon up here. See the ribbon? Okay, so I'm going to make it click. Okay, notice how there's nothing up here now. That charting option went away. I click the chart. Now I've got a charting menu that's only there when a chart is selected. Now that charting menu in the ribbon gives you the ability to customize your chart. So not only does every single chart type have about, 10 to 20 different pre-made templates, right? Some are nice, some are not. They give you the ability to customize. You also have the ability to go over and manually add objects to your chart. Now, when I say object, what do I mean? I mean you can add axes. Okay, so I can go in and I can add an axes title. See it popped in right down here? So I could say item, for example. I could give that a title name. I can go in and I can add trend lines. Okay, now in MS100, you really don't want to mess around a lot with linear trending, but I will tell you that moving forward, we will work a lot with trend analysis. Okay, so you have the ability to go in and add trend lines. You have the ability to add a legend. Okay, so I can go in and put a legend in, and I added that to the right for 2013. Okay, you name it, you can pretty much do it. Okay, now a couple key best practices when it comes to adding objects to your table. You add too many objects to your table, and the objects will take away from the data. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're as simplistic as you can be while hammering home whatever business purpose you actually have in this particular product. Okay, so I wanted to start with that. The second thing I wanted to do was show you how to make charts with data that's not necessarily touching. So for example, I took it the easy way out here and I just made a chart that showed me 2013. But what if I wanted a chart that showed me 2013 versus 2015 versus 2017 in sales? Okay, that's kind of tricky, right? Because you won't be able to go through and just select the whole thing. We don't want 14 and 16, we want 13, 15, and 17. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to start by selecting the range A4 through B9. Now that's the first thing that's confusing to people. I hear this a lot. Well, why did you select A4? There's nothing in A4. That is correct, but it is actually the first cell of the first line that does contain data. So you see how I've got B4 right here? So I need to select A4 because B4 is part of that data. So I'm going to go A4 then I'm going to select down. Now here's the little trick, which many of you probably already know, but in case you don't, the next thing you're going to do before you select the 2015 data and the 2017 data is you're going to hold down the control key on your keyboard, okay? Control key is going to say CTRL on your keyboard, and then you're going to select your data and select your data. So I was able to make a non-connected selection by holding down the control key. Now at this point, you won't be able to quick analysis, but you can hit the insert tab in the ribbon, go over to the chart that you like, and literally just select it. Okay, so now by doing that, here's what it's going to show me. Okay, here's coffee espresso, 13, 15, 17. Okay, here's bakery, 13, 15, 17. Okay, so it was allowing me to do that by quickly going through and holding down the control key. A couple of other cool things. Say you choose to create a column chart and you go, man, I don't really like that column chart. I should have chosen a different chart option. You don't have to delete it and start again. While you have that chart selected, you can go to Design in the ribbon and choose Change Chart Type. And it'll give you the ability to select a different chart, whatever works for you. So maybe you wanted to go from column chart, there you go, to something a little bit more horizontal. Now, the last little trick that I want to show you before I turn this video over to you guys is finalizing your chart. So sometimes you want to keep your chart right here inside the same worksheet. Sometimes if you're making a presentation, you might want to put that in a worksheet all its own. So to do that, and this is a pretty cool little trick, if you right-click the chart, you can go to Move Chart. When I click Move Chart, I'm going to move it to a new worksheet all its own. Now that's key because when you do your homework in the book, it's going to have you do something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And voila, it's on a worksheet all its own. You've got a chart. Okay, so nothing to it. Charting.